Right, then. Is it live or is it not? Nobody knows, but I know that my software says it is live. Good story. Old use case. Doing streaming on my game engine. And that is not working yet, but it's game engine. So welcome back to the stream now after this odd introduction. So as always, before we're gonna get into it, we need to check if everything works. This is why I'm talking garbage, because I want to make sure that everything works before I start diving into things. So I just keep a bit talking trash and talking to you until I have a bit of buffer accumulated so that I can verify on YouTube that everything works, which should now be the case. So I now need to find the stream on YouTube, which is always, no, there it is. Now I should be able to open it. There is the stream. And what I should now do is see if everything is set it up correctly. Yeah, which definitely is. So let's now see how the audio and everything works. I need to mute my audio first here on my system, and then I can take a look at it. Is see if everything is set it up correctly, which is looking very good. So I think we are ready to go. Now I'll bring back the music. The chat. Yeah, the chat is important. I need the chat in my own window. There you go. Chat is now on the monitor where it's supposed to go, and now I'm still bright. That's amazing. I have fixed a bit of my light setup, so you should be still able to see me, even if all of my monitors are in dark mode black, which they are now. But you can see me, that's good. It's like the worst light fix that you would probably have seen in the entire world. It's basically just an old LED strip that happened to be somewhere there. Just laid it behind my screen on the monitor stand. And yeah, but it works. Alright, well, no, that's not what I want to do. Windows, why do you enable this peaking? Alright, so diving back into developing the game engine. So I have done multiple things since the last stream. Are they in the Git changes? Maybe, but maybe not. Basically, as one of the viewers last time suggested, I have changed the implementation of my GPU info struct. The GPU info struct is now somewhere here, I think. Yeah, now basically the GPU info struct covers which rendering interface was used, where it was coming from, and then it has basically parameters assigned to it. For example, here on DirectX 12 case, the local unique ID, it would be better to like DXGI this, but I don't know. I would have that D312 is good as well. I don't know even if the local unique ID is a thing in DirectX 11, I'm not quite sure. However, we are not going to use DirectX 11 anyway, so yeah, it's not a point to really keep it. Alright, so this is one thing that I changed, and then I changed the functions that basically operated on then. Not a big deal actually, just a few things done here. Let's actually close up all the windows. It's already too hard to understand anything. Alright, so what did I add as well? Well, I have done more hardware abstraction layering. I don't know how much I've done in the last stream. However, I do have now an abstraction layer for DirectX 12. I think we did this last stream. I have one for Windows. We already had that one. And now I also have one for my mappings. The mappings is basically, I think did I credit this in the stream as well? I think yes. Always hard. I should have rewatched at least a few minutes, but I think we did it already. But I changed a few things. I changed that one. I've added that one. Basically now windowing is basically now also completely abstracted away. All the windowing behavior, I think this is definitely what I've done off stream. All the windowing behavior for Microsoft has now been gone into its own hardware abstraction layer. I think there was some code already there, but it was not finished last stream. So basically the factory is now completely an interface. The window behavior has become an interface. The I window itself has become an interface. This is completely new, this interface. A few functions have been offloaded to that, which does not really make this a full classical interface. However, to keep the functions working that I had, it was required. Also, I mistyped myself on behavior, so I needed to change it everywhere. Yeah. So now basically we are good and have now like everything that is used inside of our minimal is hardware abstracted, or nearly everything. Like this main is completely hardware abstracted, even though it's not all implemented for all potential platforms that might ever exist in this world, which is never the case in the application you write, but yeah. The header itself should only use engine and hardware abstraction layer things. The implementation is okay to be included here because it's the mapping. The mapping is implementation, but a cross-platform implementation, which basically links, or not links because it's not linking, because it's basically just, in case of windowing, it's using a lot of using. Basically what I'm doing is I'm rewriting this now. In PDK HAL windowing, there should be a type called window factory, and this type is, if we are on Windows, redirected to the Windows window factory. Same with window, same with behavior. So basically the idea is that you have a global namespace that is not OS dependent, and this one is then, by using the preprocessor, mapping to the real implementation. That's then going to be used. So this is a full preprocessor thing. Other hand, what we had in the rendering infrastructure, this was not a full mapping thing. This is actually a bit of code around that, because we might support more renderers than D3, D12 on Windows in the future. This is just the idea here. However, it's not really a big deal how this works. Alright, so this is basically the idea of that mapping stuff, and that's everything which I've added there. Now what I've added completely new to the project is I have added a bit of base code for swap chains. I'm gonna walk you through that. This is something that we're gonna continue on today. What I've added is this iHardware, no, not an iHardware interface, iDisplay surface. That's the one what I was looking for. So we are looking for the iDisplay surface. Now the iDisplay surface is basically an interface for a display surface, what the name says. And the display surface is basically a area where we can render something to. And in case of DirectX 12, it's a swap chain, right? DXGI swap chain. That's the rendering interface, or the display surface. And basically what this interface does, it's not doing many things. It just has a present function to present the current frame. It has a set vsync function, which basically enables or disables vsyncing, so as the user desires later on. And we have a function get buffering mode and set buffering mode currently, and these are setting the buffering mode, which can be double or triple buffering. It's basically just depending on how many buffers you have in a swap chain. Do I still get together why triple buffering was a thing? Normally double buffering, one is viewed, one is drawn, and then both are swapped. Now triple buffering is the thing like one is viewed, one is drawn, and one is in some state in between. So basically when you are done drawing, you can directly give this into the queue to be displayed, while you already get the third buffer to start rendering. So you basically have one that's currently displayed, one that is finished drawing, but waits, for example, for the next vsync, but you already have time to draw to the next one. It's something like that. And also, of course, if the buffer is finished displaying, so the new buffer gets in, it's not directly available for the user. Operating system might need to do some discarding on that buffer or stuff on that buffer, synchronization, whatever, so it might not be directly available. And by having 3 buffers, you basically have one more buffer of headroom. So if you're really, really tight, the triple buffering might help, but it might also introduce more latency. Normally today you just use double buffering. I don't really see modern games even supporting triple buffering. However, triple buffering for our case is basically just a number, right? We're gonna see this in the DirectX 12 implementation in a second, or I think it's even in the Windows implementation. No, because it's DirectX 12 here. However, basically for us it's just a number, right? We just need to take this number into account. That's it. We can't hardcode this number. We just dynamically set this to the buffering mode. And it's not really a big deal, so I'm gonna add this functionality in here, because I always did it when I've written like proper software, if we call this proper software, but yeah. It doesn't hurt having it in there. Maybe in the future we're not gonna even expose this, but we have it there. Alright, so now let's take a look at the implementation of this interface that I've already started, which is not by any means finished, which is a DXGI display service in the DirectX 12 package. It's called XGI display surface because it's basically just containing a swap chain. However, it's linking with DirectX 12 resources, so it's kind of like an intermediate between Windows and DirectX 12, and so it's in a DirectX 12 package. Right, because we have one intermediate for Vulkan, maybe. So we cannot have this as the Windows core implementation. Alright, so let's take a look at the source code, what we can do. So we have a few constructors available. We have a move, which we might even be able to use it as a default one. No, we are not, because we're using a row pointer here. Okay. However, as you can see, it takes a device at the command queue to create a rendering display surface and a window. The window is required because we need to draw on it, right? So we need it. And then we have a few of like this move and construct stuff. Alright, so let's take a look at this. The assign is very simple. We just call the move constructor, right? It's very simple. I haven't implemented the move constructor itself because it's not done. I want to have the class done before I write the move one so that I don't miss something. Alright, so how are we creating the swap chain? So the swap chain is created by first obtaining a copy of the factory. We need a factory. If we don't have a factory, we can't work on it. So we retrieve ourselves a direct DXGI factory from Windows. Then we are describing the swap chain. How are we describing it? Well, we tell it how many buffers we want to use, which is the same thing that I told you. If we have double buffering, you could just hard code this. However, I use that one to basically convert my enum, which I have very cleverly already defined to the right number so that we can just cast it and be lazy. And basically using these to assign it. Buffer count equals buffering mode. Now, how are we going to use the buffers? We're going to use them as back buffers because we want to rewrite on them, and we want to discard them on present. Discard and present means they are drawn and we no longer care about them. We don't need the data back, which is how you should do this today. Now, the flags that we are using are the flags allow mode switch. Our mode switch basically allows us to put this into dedicated full screen mode, which we might implement, and allow tiering allows us to use variable refresh rate, basically. I don't know, was it really... I think it's allowed tiering basically is required for variable refresh rate, because if you're not allowed tiering, it's trying to always sync this. It had something to do with that flag. We could actually look this up because it's interesting also for you. Let's get a new instance here for you. Why did they actually now call it learn? Yeah, variable refresh rates, yeah, exactly. Tiering support is a requirement to enable displays that support variable refresh rate to function properly when the application presents a swap chain tied to a full screen borderless window. Win32 apps can already archive tiering in full screen exclusive mode by calling that full screen state true, but the recommended approach for Win32 developers is to use this tiering flag instead. This flag requires the use of a DXGI effect flip effect. Maybe a bit bigger for you, but yeah. Basically what we want to do is you want to always set this tiering flag nowadays, because basically it makes more compatibility for your application. Yeah. Do anything else? No hardware protection, we don't need this, at least yet. Full screen video, yeah, whatever, don't care. Multiplane rendering, don't need that. Currently. It's just core window. No, we're never gonna need it. Don't care about this one as well. Don't care about that one. GDI, no, we don't want to call don't want to draw with GDI on that, so we don't care about this as well. Mode switch, resize target. Need that. So these are actually the two things that I learned over the years of developing stuff, that you need these two. Now the format is a bit different. This format might change in the future. We might have this settable, but we're gonna get to this in the future. Height, width, just get it from the window, store it internally. Count 1, quality 0. DirectX 12 does not support MSAA swap chains. You can actually comment this We don't support them. Scaling, I do want to... this is, I think, a quite new value, aspect ratio stretch. So scaling is when the size of the swap chain doesn't match the size of the window, and then it's trying to stretch this taking aspect ratio into consideration, basically. We don't use 3D. I could say no 3D here. No 3D glasses, because we're gonna render 3D, right? Okay, so... And then we have that one here. Swap effect, flip discard. That's the one which referred here in the flag. We want to flip and discard, so we want to basically flip the buffers and discard them. I don't know if flip discard even works with 3 buffers, but I think it should. Because it basically, like as I told you, triple buffering is basically like double buffering, but instead of basically waiting until the flip has occurred, you already have the next buffer available. So the idea here is really that this flip discard is used there as well, to flip the buffers and then discard the old one. However, it's gonna be discarded. We don't care. Might not be discarded. Might be discarded. Nobody knows. I think actually by default it's not being discarded, because I think when I did not call clear, at least in my system, I had overdraw, which meant that it was not really getting discarded, but that's really just up to the implementation of, in this case, probably in the NVIDIA driver in my system. So just put this to that one. This is how you use them modernly in these ages. So yeah. Now, full screen description. We need to always describe how our swap chain operates in full screen mode. In this case, I'm basically just setting the FPS hard to 60. Because as I think, really, these are quite deprecated. These are just used when I think you are using VSync. So in the future we might need to ask our display what its refresh rate is before we are hardcore setting this. But we are currently not supporting this full screen stuff. I'm just setting it to some valid value so that we can use it down here. Because I need to basically set this one to true, because we're not using full screen mode. Window equals true. Now these are 2 nice things that you always need to do. Scanline ordering. I was told that this has something to do with consoles and old displays, which use like special orders on how the scanlining of the monitor works and stuff like that. But yeah, you really just set it in most of the cases to unspecified. I think, as far as I know, bad things happen, at least on my system, if you set them. It's gonna fail. Now here I have my scaling flag. What I'm doing here is basically saying that I'm stretching my image. So again, if the size of the back buffer doesn't match the screen, it's just gonna get stretched by DXGI. This is how I like to have it. Could argue that this is bad or anything, but really these are edge cases. These that are just handled during resizing and stuff like that, until you finish resizing and the application kicks in and resizes the buffers. So yeah, very simple, just a default swap chain description here. And then I'm creating the swap chain by calling the create swap chain for HWND function for H window. Giving it my queue. This is important on DirectX 12. This is not a device, even if it says device in the description, which you can't read, but if we would look this up. We see that the first parameter is a device. And you can see for DirectX 12 and earlier versions of Direct 3D, this is a pointer to the 3D device for the swap chain. For Direct 3D 12, this is a pointer to a direct common queue referred to ID 3D 12 common queue. This parameter cannot be null, so this is why we need the queue, and this is how many people fail when they are transitioning from DirectX 11, or they just read the documentation inside Visual Studio. I think this was not even there at the initial release. I don't see the history of the page. Early on you saw the history. That's bad, you don't no longer see the people who have worked on that. Sad. But yeah. And basically, yeah, that's how it works. And it needs a window handle, 2 of these descriptors, a output restriction, and the pointer to a swap chain. That's exactly what I'm doing. Casting the window to an HVND because this operator is implemented these descriptors I don't want to restrict, and boom, make myself a swap chain. And that's really everything that we need to do here. I might want to implement a custom destructor to make sure that everything, at least later on... Oh great, thanks Visual Studio for not showing me my cursor. But they fixed it so that it's back when you're just closing the tab and not the whole instance of Visual Studio. So let's implement that one very quickly. It will be quite simple, at least currently. Currently we'll just call release on the swap chain to make sure it's properly released, right? Now let's actually see if this builds. I don't know if it builds, if I change anything. If I already built this, I have no idea. But it kinda builds. Yeah. So now we need to find a way to test this code. This is going to be a bit more complicated because we cannot really allocate the memory for that properly. If we would have a mapping, we might could do this. However, since we are doing this decision at runtime, we cannot have proper mapping. Now, you could use smart pointers and stuff like that. However, I don't want to use them. My problem is that basically what's happening here is that we have custom allocators and we cannot really delete them automatically. This is why I need kind of like my own interface for new and delete. And I'm going to do this by providing a delete first. So what I basically need is I need a superclass for all of my objects. This is probably go into our util package instead of the memory folder. And I'm just now gonna call this one HObject for heap object. I know that I'm probably gonna regret this name at some point, but I'm gonna call it HObject now. And this is gonna be called PDK, memory, or even just PDK. I don't know, even put this into the memory package. Just PDK, HObject. Object on the heap. And basically what I need to do now, yeah, GC support in the future could be something that I'm doing, but probably probably only for scripting objects. I mean, yeah, it would be, I think I would more likely to be implementing some ref counting in that HObject class. Because I think that this would be more useful to have some ref counting in here. So basically an own implementation of like a smart pointer, basically. I don't know, does the smart pointer actually supports custom allocators? Yeah, SCD default delete could override this, but I think I'd rather have it as a yeah. I think your objects are actually quite nice. Even though I'm not a big fan of Unreal at all in general, but yeah, no. Are they fine with showing source code on stream? Probably not. I could quickly open this up to reference it. Probably I'm not gonna get to the repository through the Teams. No, maybe I do get through that. So go to file, object. Of course, they have many files called UObject, but that's looking good. Core UObject, that's something that's probably good. Yeah, I think I need to take a look at this in if I have a bit more time to find the right class. But the most easiest way would be to implement the simple ref counting. We could even do this now quickly. It's not that hard to do simple ref counting. The thing that I would need to do is I would need to have a wrapper class so that the pointers are nicely wrapped. So to do ref counting, we need to take into account that the thing might be running multi-threaded at some point. Was it done? I think you could do them like that. To have them properly atomic. Implement ref counting there. So now the only thing that we need now to include is the allocator itself. Okay, I'm gonna do the full path. You might want to use the default allocator here as well, so that we don't always need to directly implement this. So we're gonna do a memory allocator. Store it here. This is not gonna work, so we need a memory allocator reference. Yeah, we can simply just put implementation here. It wouldn't. Don't want to make a source file for that. The thing that I probably want to do is also increment the ref count. Or I think I can. Can I, in the modern C++ versions, initialize that? I probably can. Yeah, looks good. So they started a ref count at 1. And the H object itself is gonna delete itself if it reaches a ref count of 0. So how do I want to support copying? I think in general copying should be just copy over the allocator and not a ref count, because copying the raw object is really gonna create a copy of it. So it's getting its own ref count then. Simply like that. Move is gonna be interesting. Can we... How we implement a move? I mean, we just need to make sure. Actually, the move is not even that critical, because the object itself... Yeah, we're just gonna set the ref count to 0 properly. M allocator. Yeah, I think it would be better to do it explicitly. So that nobody does this. Yeah. Sometimes you don't really see what's going on and objects get copied around, yeah. Maybe even with, I think, yeah, move is it even allowed to do an explicit move? I think yes. Should be good. Just to make sure that this reaches never 0. Just need to make sure that this is all called properly when it's all going inside of that. When we're getting to all the madness of manipulating ref counter, but I think it should be good. So add ref in theory, just that. Which should in theory just call the increment. I think there was a previously there were... Oh, should be good. Now on release we want to basically remove it. I don't want to have auto. I don't want to implement a destructor here. However, I do want to have it virtual. I'm just gonna do nothing here, but actually, if you're not using it, it's just actually not even required, because I do want to explicitly. However, no, I do want to have a virtual destructor, because the implementation here, it might. I'm gonna put it virtual just to be safe, so that if somebody. Yeah, I need to have it virtual because I need to call other destructors. Yeah, okay, no, I really need to have it. Because I'm gonna use the release function, and basically what I want to do here is... And then basically tell my allocator to delete the object. And this needs to call through the virtual destructor vtables, so that we are really calling all destructors that might be in the chain. Only thing that might now happen, but I don't think it should happen. No, it should not happen because this should be atomic. The only problem that we could get in this scenario, if we call multiple releases at the same time, that we might end up again with a high reference count. We could do this with compare exchange, but I don't think that we need to do it yet if we don't encounter any problems. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Now, if we are assigning to that one, do we actually... No, we do not need to modify our reference count, we just need to... of course, this is not a constructor. Lol. You don't even not allowed to do it here. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to assign a different object to that one. So basically I just want to actually copy it over, and then I want to prevent that releases on the other one causes the object to be deleted. Delete even an operation that should be allowed. That's our assigning, I mean. Do I really want to assign that objects are the same? No, actually, I don't think that I want to support assignment in general. Also above here, I don't think that assign is something that should be even valid. Because doing a copy... I mean, for the allocator it would be valid. However, the objects itself shall not be copyable. They should just be movable. They are unique. They shall always be created by calling the function. What we later want to do is we want to later be able to copy handles to that object. So HObject handle. These ones that can be copied then because they are always referring to one unique object itself. But I think object copies in general, for the purpose of what we are using them, should not be currently should not be a thing. However, in the future, this might screw us up, because in the future, if we want to reuse HObject, then copying might be a supported thing. And if we are copying, we are just copying over the allocator. And we are getting a new reference count because we have a new copy of that object. So we're just gonna copy the allocator. So that the new object gets the same allocator. What does the new object? I mean, yeah, because the other object that is copying uses its own allocator. So the allocator instead of the H object. Yeah. We probably want to expose the allocator. Be able to get it. So that we can reuse this allocator to basically, this allocator is now kind of like associated with that object, and you can use that allocator to perform operations on the data itself, and then the object itself decides if it wants to implement the copy. And if it wants to implement the copy, this one is doing the job to, under the hood, also copy the allocator over to a new object. And now we are basically assigning something. If we have been assigned from a different object, our own ref count is still the same, because this object itself is still referenced, but it might now have a other allocator because we have received, or the whole object itself has received data from a different object, which might use the different allocator. So this should be fine. Now moving itself, I don't think that we even need to implement it then. I think we're just gonna get rid of move. Or the only thing on move that's really interesting is actually the clearing, which I've done here, because moving the other object basically means that the other object, yeah, so we might want to support it to be 100% safe. But do we copy over the other's ref count then? Probably. Because the other object is now invalid. Can't do this? Okay. The atomic Yolong cannot be copied. So I need to manually use exchange. Does it work? No, of course it works. So, which is then returning as our old ref comp, but I really don't care about the old one. We're gonna see when this falls apart, probably at some point. Haven't really thought on how to implement this actually, but we're gonna see. Which will now basically require us to make that one. Actually, now probably, well, one thing that I want to do is also add handles for these objects. To do automatic memory management for us. So a bit of type traits. So we need the base. I think I could just pretty clear the base here. Should be good. So I basically say that this is now the object. And then we have a pointer to that object itself. Oh, which you probably should just call object. Because it's an object handle, so the member is called object. And now we just need to encapsulate them, so... What do we want to do in copy? First of all, my object is going to be equal to the others object, and then I'm just going to call add ref here to add reference to that object, because now I am holding a reference as well. Then move, it's going to be simple, just going to assign this. And then we're basically gonna invalidate the other one, so that it gets invalid, like that. And then I wanna also have a constructor from the raw pointer itself, t-pointer, object. And what's that gonna do is just gonna assign it. Because this is then gonna be used when an object is created, or do we want to create a copy for a reference for that? That's a big question. Could add this as a parameter. By default, say we're gonna add a reference. Do I want to do this like that? What would be the case to get a raw pointer to a normal object? It would be if it's stored somewhere or retrieved somewhere as a raw data. How would you retrieve it as a raw data? Either if you store it as a raw pointer or if it comes from a function. If it comes from a function, it was probably created or retrieved. In either cases, it's still holding a reference. However, I probably want to add this always. I always want to add ref to that because I'm always gonna call release if I'm on a destructor, so I want to always make sure to add ref it. Even through this might. So we might even want to be as greedy and start the reference count of the object at 0. Even through the really does not seem reasonable. However, it might seem reasonable because if we are creating the object itself, we are creating a pointer, which then holds one reference. So before we are really giving it to a proper handler, we want to call release on it. However, if I directly call release and then return the pointer, then it's always gonna be, it's already gonna be destroyed. So okay, now we gotta just assert that if we are getting a pointer that it holds a reference. We might then want to do it explicitly. This is might be a bit dangerous. So this at least document. I think is Visual Studio capable of seeing that somehow. However, I think it's going to be displayed a bit more. No, it really doesn't care where you put it. Alright, so we're going to start with that one. Now assigning. We wanna, yeah, I think we wanna probably prevent self-assign. This is reasonable to do. Release function. We're not returning anything. Sure that we are releasing it. Then we're gonna say now this add ref is probably something that we wanna do a bit more safe all the time, because we could get a null pointer here. So I do wanna give this my own function. So we're releasing it, assigning it, and adding a reference to that. Same thing here, assigning it, adding a reference. I think this is a bit safer. So this is now copy. I mean, release, I'm fine with having that public. However, add ref is something that I don't want to expose. Release, yeah, sure, you can release it and it's gonna be cleared, its internal state. Now, no, this is not const. Move assign. Release is still required, however add ref not, because we are clearing the other one. Do we want to support assigning to a pointer? I mean, it's the same thing here, but I cannot make it explicit. Because I might... But I might overthink this overdo it. No, I think I'm gonna put a different pattern on here. We are not gonna allow the direct assigning of pointers here today. We're not gonna allow it. The only thing that we're gonna allow is the address of operator. So that you basically always need to give it a pointer to a pointer. To assign it, and to get the objects. If you're having this as a pointer, then we are probably giving it an object that has a ref count of 1 and the class can work with it. I think this is the best way to make this safe. Yeah, I think this is how I want to do it. However, what I do want to do is a destructor. So now all the object management behaviors like assigning works. Now I do want to have a get function, and maybe even a constant get function. be able to use this as a const and as a non-const. I mean, this is now even, it's like nearly similar to my comp pointer class. However, my comp pointer class is doing some more things, I think, which is really like requiring a Microsoft interface. But it is quite similar to the comp pointer class. But it's an H object handle. Something different. So I have these get functions. Now these get functions are probably gonna be operator abused. No, operator, T pointer. Operator. Const, T pointer, const. So that this is all const correct. Then we're gonna have the T pointer operator pointer, const T pointer, missing a const here. So like that. I need to check. Nothing important. So I can really access them. I might put some labels in. Just to, yeah. So we can now access it. Convert it, access it. Now we just need the address of. Do you want to have a pointer here? Like that to be sure that we have them. We might could flag them all as non-accept. That are non-accept. Probably everything should be non-accept. This release might not be, and address might not be as well. I don't know. Are there atomics? Are they non-accept? Oh, come on. It's an operator. Yeah. Can I? Yeah, they are non-accept. Deleting the object, however, not. This might go through the destructor. That might throw something. Addref is quite simple. This should also work. Allocator should be good by being copied over. I probably already violated my non-accept stuff at least one time. Multiple times probably. Do I have to point operators, everything in here? So now we can see how this all falls apart. I'm gonna see. So let's start with the display surface. So if I make this an age object, now everything else is an age object as well. Now the DirectX 12. And no, it's the GPU interface, hardware interface. What did I just made an object? Not the hardware interface, display surface. I think this is not even like dealing with a allocator, which we might want to add now. Set instance, I think it is a pointer, yeah. So this should fix it. It should be also constructible like that. However, can I even now... I think I need a set allocator function as well. Because or can I directly say age object of allocator? No, because it's not directly in that hierarchy. It's not the base class, so it's not directly callable. So I would need to pass it through, which I don't want. So I'd rather supply a set allocator function. Which is always good, but might be unsafe in certain cases. However, is it really the place to call it? Because the object is like already created by the allocator. And then always passing it in is not elegant. However, I don't see a way around it. I mean, a way around would not be to use the allocator, the constructor, and call the set allocator on the age object itself. By a class it's allowed to call it, but I think this is not clean, because then like everybody could set it even from the custom client code. Like, no. Rather I have it always passed in. I know, this is just a try. Maybe if this doesn't work, I need to change stuff. I'm not a public. It's not accessible because it's protected, and I think I did not pass this on correctly. I directly pass on as protected and then it works. Where is my source file? Not good. I don't want to pass it through. Oh, I need to really make it public. We could like restrict now. No, because it's probably passed wrong. What is... no, now it... No, what? Why am I not able to go to my H object? What did I miss? Here? It should work, but can I not really use it later? I mean, it's public now. So if I'm an iDisplay surface... Oh yeah, if you're not implementing your interfaces, then it's not good. Yeah. So, iDisplay surface, where are you? Rendering infrastructure. Now we should be able to use it. That's the issue now. iDisplay surface cannot be used, okay. So this is the H object that screws us. Because, yeah, this cannot directly... Oh yes, of course. Haha. Save it where you are. So now this is good. But still, this shouldn't be possible. Yeah. Now this should make sure that the allocator is in its place. And now I just need to make sure that this object is created. Where do I want to create it? First of all, I think the iGPU interface need to be able to delete this on my... Okay, yeah, like now this destroy function is... Okay, maybe we should get this in here first, because this is like still using this destroy function, which it should no longer use now. Now this should include the util, I don't know. Never used this package that much before, and it always likes to use it. Now if this is an H object, we can now use it basically. Now this is created by the hardware interface. And this is really like now returning a iGPU interface. However, we now want to return a boolean. And have the PP interface, or let's call it interface. Yeah, PP interface. By changing this now so that it works. You can like make this like that so that Visual Assist is also happy if we automatically implement the interface. So here we now need, yeah. Of course I copied the wrong one. And this is gonna be a bool. So adapter, if adapter, return. Yeah, so we're making a new object here. So That is our new object. Actually, no, we don't even need to do this like that. We actually say dereference pp interface equals that new object. And then we have that new object in place. The only thing that I need to do, because... Oh no, this allocator is even passed, so the D3D12 interface can set itself. And then we just return difference. No, I can actually be like B1 by somebody like that and just do it like that, so that this is now implemented properly. Now the D312 GPU interface. Okay, it's getting an adapter and the allocator, that's right. The only thing that just needs to do now is it needs to set the allocator to be in place, and now there should be probably ref count and we can already test this. Am I still? No, I'm probably not building because... Oh yes, I am building because I think that there is no demo code for that currently existing. Or is there? Okay, so... Okay, so there is some demo code existing, okay. So this is no longer the iGPU, this is now... Engine... Virtual memory, H object handler. H object handler, it's a ARI iGPU interface. GPU I is, I think, even better. Of course, you are not knowing that, that's correct. You are not knowing that because we are not using namespace and stuff. Okay. So something is... Okay. Something is wrong there. What? I'm gonna see. Probably some issue in my template. So the open interface function now of course needs the GPU I here, which yeah, there's something wrong with the template. Type name T. Maybe because of that, maybe we just include. Don't think this should make some difference, but you never know. Yeah, was really... I just build it. If it comes to templates, it's always better to... Okay, yeah, that's true. Just gonna be an idiot and walk through everything. That is something I think that I made wrong. Yeah. I rather like compile multiple times. Yeah, let's see. Yep, DirectX. Implements DirectX. Yeah, okay. Of course, we need to implement this. If we are not implementing that, then it cannot use it. Logic error, yeah, sure. If you want to do it. I'm okay with that. Okay, unresolved external symbol. Yeah, I think DirectX 12 is actually way easier than Vulkan because of the tools and the majority of the system. The concept is the same. It's the same hardware near concept, like fancy synchronization, comment lists. Like this concept is the same on Vulkan, the basic concept, the basic idea. However, what's happening on DirectX 12 is that the interface itself is way more simple to use, way more verbose. If you are just using simple functions, you can basically use old functions. Whenever DirectX introduces a new function, they're just appending a number, like D3D12 device, D3 device 1, 2, 3, they're like counting up, the same with functions. If there's a new version of the function, the old one is still available, still usable. And if you don't care about the new functions, it's good. And if you want to use them, well, just use a different function. You have a fresh new function to start over. On Vulkan, if you need to describe something, you need to chain structs together and things like that that I personally don't like. Yeah, many query functions are very complicated. Creating the device and things like that are more complicated. And if you have an error, it's mostly just an access violation somewhere. It's not really telling you what went wrong. On DirectX 12, the debugging layer is way easier to enable. It's telling you way more what you did wrong. The tool support for DirectX is better out there. You can use like Inside Graphics, Pix. The Intel tool, I don't know how it's named. I think there's also an AMD tool where you can, I don't know, does AMD have a graphic debugger, but at least they are like, I think RenderDoc supports it as well. There are like 3 to 5, not sure, 3 to 5 graphic debuggers out there that help you getting your things done. So I think it's a bit easier to work with it, yeah. Would recommend it, especially if you're on Windows and do not really care about when learning about different platforms. I think it's way better to start with DirectX because it's like all in the Microsoft ecosystem, all the Microsoft classes work. Integration with the window itself is better. From where I'm, yeah, I actually learned I tried to learn DirectX 12 from that book, that Holy DirectX book, which was already existing for DirectX 11. However, I did not like that book, at least in the state where I read it, which was kind of where DirectX 12 was new and directly aided. This book is now out for DirectX 12. But what they really did is they just Control F11 and replaced it with 12. Not that they really did it because there were new concepts, of course. However, the problem was really that they were like showing the DirectX 11 way on DirectX 12 APIs. And basically what I've just learned it by experimenting around, trying to find information how GPUs work under the hood, and with the Microsoft documentation. This is where I like learned the most things about it. The basics, yeah, if you're finding a copy of that, I don't know, how was that book called? If you search DirectX 12 book, it's probably the first thing that comes up. Yeah, that one here. But oh, that's really expensive. Not buy this for this price, definitely. I think you can actually. There's already this is a PDF. I don't know what this PDF is all about. D3 decoder. Okay, this is the sample code for that book. Is that one good? Let's see. Is that actually? No. Is it the book? Or is it just a? I think this is just an example. No, is that a full book? Is that really the full book? No, there must be something missing. I mean, this book is good if you wanna learn graphics. However, I don't know if you're learning the API, it's more. But it looks like that this is the full book here available online as a PDF. Okay, so if it's free, give it a go. Yeah, 858 pages. Why not if it's free? But you can also watch my video series if you need to learn it. But I just read a few pages and I was not really happy with that book. Or I don't know if these are the same, but they look the same. I was not happy with That book, I really loved it, the DirectX 11 version. This is where I initially started learning all the DirectX stuff. Before 12, I had that book of 11. I really loved it. However, for me, the 12 book was too similar to the 11 book, because it still talked about the concepts, but not really the DirectX 12 way. It was still like all the code from 11, but 12 style with the DirectX 12 API. And then basically Microsoft documentation. Like everything that you need to know is like in the Microsoft samples documentations, they really have plenty of informations there. It also goes beyond what things are gonna do. Also, like if you're interested in how the GPU works, I think the book Real-Time Rendering, they have a very, very good introduction how the GPU works with all the pipeline and stages. However, like it's like a few pages of like this. I don't know how many pages. I think over 1,000. I know, but it's a good book for rendering techniques and real-time rendering in general. Yeah, so that's something that I would recommend. But now, what is the problem here? Object, PDK, reference and function. So there's one destructor missing somewhere. Oh yeah, that one. Which should be default. This should fix stuff. Hopefully. Yeah. The question is, does the code still work? How can we solve that? Well, simple, simple, simple. Where is my... Yeah, OpenGL is like nice to start. I never really was an OpenGL expert. I directly, back when I started like this graphic stuff, I directly started it fully with DirectX 11. OpenGL is nice. I did actually a bit of coding in OpenGL once, and the nice thing is on OpenGL you are there fast. You can really write a few lines of code and it works. And if you are doing it's cross-platform, at least the idea is that it is cross-platform. It's cross-platform more or less, but if you're using like the basic features, it should run everywhere. I once considered doing maybe a bit of mobile development, so I wrote a bit of code in OpenGL, and like it's really amazing how fast you are, how fast you get things done. However, like if you're really planning to do a full architectural engine and have it optimized with all that resource management, ray tracing, and all that stuff, if you want to have all options, then you need to do like these days Vulkan or DirectX 12. But if you're just doing a little graphic project, then OpenGL is fine. My first games were just doing, the first games that I've implemented were just drawn with GDI and C# and WinForms, and they perform bad. So if you're doing something simple, I mean, there are like these videos on YouTube where like one guy shows like 10 games implemented in OpenGL in 1 hour. Okay, but yeah. I think, yes, when I looked at this the last time, when I started like with all the DirectX 12 stuff, and I considered like doing a Vulkan tutorial series actually once, and when I tried to compare this, the two languages, the two APIs, like every concept that was there in DirectX 12 was also there in Vulkan. Something was better in DirectX 12 and other things were better in Vulkan. Like for example, fences in DirectX 12, it's a value, right? You only increment them and check them. And Vulkan, you set and reset them, like more how a fence would work, but increment, set them and unset them. And more like a flag and not a real number, which like has the advantage of not overflowing, even though you're probably not going to get a fence in DirectX overflown with 64-bit numbers, but it could happen. However, I once did a computation on a like, what was it, 300 FPS monitor, how many years the game need to run to overflow that value, and I came to the conclusion it's not a big deal, because the system is probably going to crash early on because something happens to it or anything, but yeah. However, like on Vulkan, you always need to set clear, set clear, set clear. While on DirectX, so just say increment, 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 and basically just have one operation per frame instead of two. Other things are a bit more flexible in Vulkan. But the thing is, I haven't done the comparison in a while. It's a bit like, was it a year ago or something when I compared them? When it comes to compute, yeah, you can do GPU compute with DirectX 12. Very simple, actually. It's even more. I might have for just compute. Did I have a compute shader? I think I had one. I don't know if I implemented this with compute. Give me a second. Maybe I have done this with compute. Or did I do this with the rendering pipeline? No, I think I did this with the rendering pipeline. However, compute is really simple on DirectX 12 because it just needs a really reduced set of all that madness you need for DirectX 12. If you are doing like DirectX 12 with graphics, you need like the swap chain, you need like all the synchronization stuff. Okay, you need this as well if you're doing compute, but not as extensive. There's many overhead, like the pipeline state. If you're doing rendering, you need to define the whole rendering pipeline before you can do something. It's all very complicated. On compute, it's basically just there is the shader. There's a shader, upload the resources, do the work, finish. Do we have some compute examples? I don't really like them. No compute example. Do I find a example? Compute shaders, yeah, sample request, hello compute. Maybe simple compute in the ATG group, that's good. This is a WVP. I don't want to have them, I want to have PC. Is there a simple compute here? Simple compute PC. 12 probably. And there's probably the compute shader somewhere. Yeah, probably in assets maybe. Yeah, fractal.hlss, so shader, very similar. Number of threads defined, main function, dispatch thread ID, which is basically just the dispatch ID like in computer. You do your code, you write something. The root signature is required. So here's a root signature, and the root signature basically is describing your layout of resources. And that's it basically. You have these variables then here which are bound to the registers defined to the root signature, like DirectX works, and the code itself should be probably simple. I think you should just need to take a look at the C++ code. So they have a function for resource spoil barriers, constant buffer. They are doing a quite simple initialize. Is initializing like this all generic stuff. I don't like these samples because they are like living in their sample framework, which is nice to have if you have a sample framework. However, if you just want to understand how a simple compute does, having all the sample framework with pix events and stuff, yeah, it's nice, but it's not a simple example, right? You need to understand how the framework works, and with these like pad exit sample, yeah, I don't care about this code. I don't care about resizing, right? Always. Like, where is the sample? But the sample is basically here. Update fractal data is somehow updating the data and uploading it to the GPU. Here are the heaps, descriptor heap, sampler, whatever. Setting the heaps, it's always required. Ensure resource state, puts the right states on the resources and on the comment list probably. Resource barriers. The comment list is get comment list, which is somehow also invoked there. And then basically you set the data here, the descriptor tables. This I call DirectX works, but basically then this patch. It's quite simple. It's not hard, but the framework, the framework is hard. I actually learned DirectX, and then I stumbled upon that I also need to learn a math. This is basically how it went back then, because it was like, well, what grade was I in school when I started this graphic stuff? But basically I wanted to render, and I had no idea of math. So I wrote code, and at some point I saw like, yeah, it's the sample code, and all the code that I've found on the internet, it kind of works, but I don't understand the math there, and then I learned it and referenced side by side. Actually once written a math library just in assembly, I think. It was a bit of time ago. Just to understand how it works, and I basically then stopped implementing matrix multiplication because I didn't want to implement the, I think, Kramer method, or how it's called, to do fast math, but yeah. But yeah, I basically learned DirectX, and then I learned the math, and then I tried to combine it. Basically. Yeah, I already saw some examples of HLSL used in Unity, which is, I think, very, very nice. Like the way they are using it, and it's a good idea. Yeah, learning from samples is always good, but I never really I never took a sample and modified it. I have always had my own ideas, started coding with documentation, and if something didn't work, I referenced samples. This is more how I did it. Not like directly learning, but basically doing my own thing and taking the missing knowledge from the samples. Was basically what I've done. This is probably the better thing to show that. So yeah, compute shader in computing something with DirectX in 783 lines. This is probably better, that example. What is it doing? Yeah, it's just doing a bit of... it's just adding 10 to each number, but it's doing something. I think this is more understandable, this example. A few people have seen that. 5. Okay, but yeah. I think it's a good example. Now let's quickly verify if my code works. GPU interface. Do I also have the GPU interface open as a source file? There it is. So let's make a breakpoint here. Let's make a breakpoint here, because we are probably in debug. Yeah, I would really recommend, like, I'm personally not that guy that works, like, on lessons the classical way. I personally enjoy more doing the things and failing myself. So, I always start... I think, what was actually the first tutorial series? I think, like, when I learned DirectX 11, there was like nearly nothing available for DirectX 11. There were only these continued series that were like going maybe until to a triangle, because these were all the tutorials you could find on the internet back then, and then they all stopped. I think the really first tutorial that, if you are interested in DirectX 11, is like the tutorial from Chile, because he's like also doing bit of rendering techniques and stuff like that, which is really a good tutorial, which really I really learned much from him. I also watched like his math series and stuff. Is yeah, it's good, especially for math, but like always, just most of the time what you're seeing, yeah, tutorial hell is annoying. Yeah, especially because many... when I try to do a tutorial, then I try to not teach how you do something. So not, hey, this is how you implement a blah 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 parser. No. this is how you implement DirectX. This is not how you implement it. You're basically teaching. The proper way to teach, I think, is to basically show you the backgrounds, show how you work with it, and show how the API works, and then not tell, hey, this is the best way to do it. And then every tutorial is the same because they all copied from the same paid tutorial page, which was like the thing with DirectX 11, right? All free available tutorials on YouTube were all doing it kind of like the same way, because one guy had a website where he sold a tutorial for money, and they all basically took his code and modified it in some way, but it was still like visible that it was coming from there. Learning DirectX 11 before DirectX 12. When you have already done OpenGL, probably no. Because DirectX 11 is basically it's somewhere between OpenGL and DirectX 12 when it comes to performance and how the API works. So it's nice if you want to get something on the screen and learn how the GPU works. They call the vertex buffer, index buffers, shaders, how all this code works. If you never have done this, it's probably good if you start with DirectX 11 first, because the API is not going to step on your foot. Right? If you're taking a sample or a tutorial, they are way shorter with DirectX 11. Way simpler to follow, because it's not like involving the whole architecture of GPUs and how GPUs work. It's all like in the library itself, in the API itself. DirectX is handling that on its own, DirectX 11. However, if you have already done OpenGL and you basically know how shaders work, what shaders are, what a pixel shader is, roughly how the GPU works, and you have already written OpenGL code, like know what a device is, what a swap chain is and stuff like that, then probably going DirectX 11 first can do it, but it's not required, I think. You could try to start with DirectX 12 and go for it, and if you see, okay, maybe I do wanna need a bit of practice in the Microsoft APIs, or DirectX 12 is a bit too complicated, then you can always like go back and start with DirectX 11. However, if you are, as you have already written like OpenGL, then probably DirectX 12 is fine. And if you're looking for a tutorial series, GPU architecture, it's always, NVIDIA always has white papers. Like for every architecture they have white papers there, where you can always see how their architecture is built. Is it the one that I'm looking for? Probably. Second generation RTX. They always have like, for each new generations they have white papers how they basically show how the GPUs are built, tell them what the difference is. Like, this is not like going into the fundamentals, because it's of course just describing the current new architecture. It's more like, it's not really a technical document, it's a semi-technical document. However, it does goes into technical details, but it is also sales graphics, as you can see. But it's always good if something comes out new. You can always take a look at this, how your actual GPU is laid out, and there's also always NVIDIA GPU architecture white paper. I think they also had a white paper somehow, how GPUs work. What I really loved about, like every book that talks about graphics is at some point going into GPU architecture. If you want to have a broad overview over the architecture, you can do something like D3D12, rendering, pipeline and shaders with DirectX 12, and you basically get an overview on how the GPU works from top to bottom and how it all comes together on DirectX 12, for example. So this is basically a broad overview on how DirectX works, and you can actually see how is it at some point there we're actually describing each stage. If you are doing a quick Google search for each stage, you're probably going to find a Microsoft document that tells you how that stage works. And if you are comparing this, for example, this is like graphics pipeline on DirectX, and this is the compute pipeline, way simpler to compute things. I really loved the introduction of the book Real-Time Rendering. The book Real-Time Rendering has an amazing introduction on on the GPU architecture. It's like that book. Probably already saw it somewhere. This might be even in the preview, because it's basically showing you the graphics rendering pipeline. It's explaining how rendering works in the pipeline. It's explaining the graphics processing unit, how it works, and everything that you basically need to know to understand how things work. And if you then combine this with the knowledge of what you get from NVIDIA white papers, then this is amazing. But it might not be just over the introduction. Let's see. Like, you can take a look at this on Amazon here. This is now Amazon Germany, but probably other Amazon pages have this available as well. You can already read this, because here it's basically showing the architecture, application stage, geometry processing, which is like vertex shading, projection, clipping, screen mapping, vertex shading, which is showing you how this works, like with projection and stuff like that. Optional vertex processing, clipping, it's like showing how this works, screen mapping. Thank you, Voices, for the subscription. And rasterization here as well. How this works, then here how rasterization works, pixel processing. It's really going into depth how this works in a broad overview. However, this is like just, as you can see, a few pages from this. I'm gonna see how many pages this has in a second. I think this is probably the end. No, it's also showing a bit of the graphics processing unit itself, how this is working, explaining how this goes, showing a bit of how this parallel architecture works with this stealth swap, finish swap, and basically having multiple threads executing in the same processor simultaneously on one shader processor. How the stages internally work. Basically, this is, I really liked how they described it. And also a bit of history, of course, is also in here. And images, like this is like until page like 100 from... How many pages do you have? Yeah, 64. No, that's not correct. If I would go to Kindle, it's probably gonna be more relevant. Can you tell me how many pages? Of course not. I could stand up and take a look at this. This book is big. Alright, so if we don't find it here... 1 second. Really got a big thing here. Like, always if you're just seeing the covers, especially on Amazon, you think, yeah, right, yeah, it's just a cover. Amazing. 64 pages. This is something that I can read on a day. But if NVIDIA broadcast is not as bitchy as it always is, which we can prevent. Come on, background removal. Nope. So, it is big and heavy. Like 1,000, if you're including like the index and stuff, over 1,100 pages, and like 100 are GPU architecture or something like that, and the math fundamentals. But this is really like explaining everything for getting started into just graphics programming. However, like by just reading that, you have the knowledge, but you can't write code for that. And I have a similar big book to just a game engine architecture. I don't have space for that book here. Similar book for game engine architecture, and these are all books that are nice and give you, like that one here, that are gonna push you in the right direction, but you always need to implement it. Yes, this is basically an overview. However, like this one is really an in-depth overview. It's also like it is showing how the rendering techniques work. But it's not showing like, hey, this is the shader code that you need to write. For example, can I show an example here? So, for example, that one here. It's giving you models on how things work. So, I don't have really a screen. So have basically, for example, when it comes to closed models, it gives you also some mathematical equations. I hope that you can see it a bit. It gives you mathematical equations, a bit of sample images here for closes used in Uncharted 4 here, for example. And it's also giving you the equations that you need, but you always need to kind of like go in and transform them into code yourself. And believe me, it's a good book, but it's not for if you're new to it. It's not maybe the best thing. There are other books that might be something that I can recommend if you're completely new. Like, where is it? That one. This is also a big book. I always like to refer to it as a Bible because it has similar pages than the Bible. Actually, these like very thin pages. I don't know if you know what I mean, but physical based rendering. This is really coming with complete code example for everything. It's not real-time rendering. It's not DirectX. It's not OpenGL. It's not Vulkan. It's basically how to write a ray tracer. However, for all the fundamentals, if you're like looking for the math and how to implement the math, how to implement the rendering, how to do a ray tracer, this is quite good because it gives you like examples how physical based rendering works, how the equations are built up, how the equations are implemented, and how to use them. And if you're basically taking this book and really understand what they did in like this also very, very light 1,000, where did I see it? 1,200 pages book, and then apply this with like real-time rendering, you can write like a commercial grade game engine probably, or rendering engine, not game engine, rendering engine. For game engine there's more to come, but it's not simple, these whole topics, but this is why you need to always do this slowly and just implement what makes fun, right? If you're reading these books, you're just gonna be frustrated probably because you're probably after like the weeks of reading the books, you're there and say, oh nice, yeah, I just still don't know how to implement it. So it's always good to have them, to reference them, especially if you're then later on programming something and you're like there, how did that HDR rendering work? Just can take a look at this, get the theory, maybe find a few examples and a bit more papers on the internet, and then work with that. So it's always good to have them, but they are not gonna. These books are not gonna give you the knowledge and the skill to write a rewrite of, for example, Frostbite or Unreal Engine. Sadly, this is not how it works. But if you're doing it step by step and learning it, you can really get to a homebrew engine. That's really not an issue. Yeah, you're welcome. Always fun to talk about this. Also, thank you. Thank you, F. Kang, for the chat message. Thank you. And I just got a subscription from Space Guy 8000. Thank you as well. And yeah, I think if you have more questions, you can just post them in. I have a few more book recommendations there. Also for a different type of problems. But yeah, I think these are like the ones that I would recommend if you start and you have time to read, of course. But now let's see if the code that I have written is total garbage or if it works. So let's see. I probably pressed 5 keys too much, but yeah. Alright, so yeah, I said that I pressed keys too much. So this should now create ourselves a GPU interface. No, it should not. It should just ah, come on, ignore it. Yeah, of course, now I can't debug this properly because I changed the source, which I didn't. So, there we go. So, handle is null. That is exactly how it should be. Now, open interface should initialize the GPU, which it has done. So how does this look like? Now I think I still have my zoom screen. Yeah, we have it. So that we can see this a bit better. Can I actually adjust this even more? I think we could try to move this a bit to that side here. And now of course I need to zoom in first because this is how things roll. Maybe move this a bit to the left. To there. And there. and we're gonna be a bit bigger. They are all improvised on stream. Something like that. Now it should be even better. Now it's also readable for me in the preview, and if it's readable for me in the preview, it should be readable for you as well. At least I hope so. Right. So what do we have? We have a default allocator, which is correct. We have a GPU adapter, device. Alright, allocator is stored twice, so we don't need to use that one. We can remove that in a second. So now if I click continue, we should be here. Now our handler, GPUI, the handle should now be a proper object interface. PDK object, yeah, it is. And now if I go down there, this should still live. Now we should enter destructing it, which we actually, oh, yeah, we do. You don't see where my breakpoints are, but you see what's going on down there. So now we are inside of the destructor. That works. Can I maybe move this a bit up so that you can, no, that's not really it's not really productive. However, I'm in the destructor. You need to believe me. It is in the destructor, and it shall now destroy the object, and we should get our windows. Now I can zoom out. We have my first window, which is really not doing anything yet, but I have two amazing windows, and our code works. So that's exactly what I want. So now we have the H objects taking over the world, which do automatic ref counting. It seems to work. I'm not gonna do tests there and do more tests. I'm gonna see if it breaks down later. If it breaks down later. Probably, hopefully not. But you never know. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to strip away what I have now duplicated before I continue. Where is it? There it is. Now this allocator is no longer required because it's now stored in the object itself. In the H object itself, and we can get rid of all of that. Good. So now the thing that we need to do is we need to implement a function that allows the GPU interface to create a display surface for a given window. So virtual bool create display surface. Now for the display surface we need the window. How can we get the window? We're gonna go to our abstraction layer, contract, windowing, iWindow. Windowing, iWindow pointer, or just do it as a reference. We can later on pass this as a pointer as well. But for this I want to have it as a reference so that it really exists. So window, and this is like the only thing that we need. The only thing that we need now as well is the output pointer. So we're gonna go to our rendering interface and to the iDisplay surface. So an iDisplay surface pointer p surface, and that's really the only thing that we need to do. Everything else should be done under the hood. Of course, this is pure virtual. And in theory this is const. Nah, we don't do it const because graphic stuff is never really const. Now on DirectX 12 we need to implement it. And this is something that I always try to keep up, but I forgot again. Now display service needs a direct command queue. We don't have one yet, however to test the code I need one. So I am gonna temporarily create myself an ID3D12 command queue temp queue. Just call it temp because it's gonna be removed in the future when we have proper queue management. And now we can use it. No, because we haven't created it yet, but we can implement it. And oh, I already implemented it. It's nice. Okay. Okay, it already implemented that when implementing the interface, right? Visual Assist is helpful too. I forgot that. So temporary, we just need to create a queue. The GPU device, create command Q1. We already have a command Q1. Just probably use the normal one. So the description and the output command queue, temp queue is gonna be with IID PPV arcs because Microsoft likes them, so that we also get the ID of which class we are using. D3D12 command queue description. Yeah, I'm not gonna name this properly. So we wanna have a type which is a direct command queue. We have a priority of D3D12. Is it just priority? Command queue priority high. For graphics we are always high. Maybe first the flags. We don't want to have any flags here. GPU timeout is important for us. GPU timeout means if the GPU does not respond, the queue gets resetted and the work is aborted. If you're disabling GPU timeout and you have, for example, an infinite loop in some of your shader code, your PC might crash. I did manage that. I have written some very complicated and wrong code at a very, very early stage where I implemented DirectX 12 and tried to implement some rendering technique that is no longer relevant because it's not needed today. And if we implemented it today, we would need to implement it in such a higher level that the computation was very, very intense. And yeah, basically what happened that I have written that code. I have written it wrong. That was good because it was not taking as long as it should have taken, but it already locked up my system for quite a long time. And then with GPU timeout, I see, aha, that's what timeout does. Timeout does abort it, which is good. So no node mask here. So this should create us a device very quickly. Now, how are we doing it here? We are doing it quite simple. We're gonna say dereferenced PP surface equals get allocator. And we're gonna say new object of type D3D12, no, DXGI display surface, which is something that we don't know here because we don't know it. So we need the implementation for that, of course. Now we could create it. We create it by specifying. That's not a good question. What did we need for that? Device queue window. So GPU device. Temp queue. Now the problem is that this is not gonna work. And we're gonna get a pointer to the window and get allocator. Now this is not gonna work because we need to call get here to make sure that we get the right types because it's templated and this then if we not do it with get gonna give us the wrong things. What is your problem? PDK memory allocator, yeah, that needs to be referenced with std reference wrapper. This is all madness that needs to be done if you're doing too much template and overdo it with templates. What is wrong? Why are you not working? Object type is PDK memory allocator. What? Argument types are device pointer, comment queue pointer, window pointer. Okay, the reference wrapper is not doing its job? No, it should. Okay, so DXGI display surface. DXGI display surface, where are you? Move it over here so that I can switch between them quickly. Okay, so we need a device 10 pointer, comment queue pointer. These should be convertible between each other. This should not be a problem. Window pointer and memory allocator reference. So what are you getting? Device 10 pointer, pointer. Okay. That is the problem, I think. We are getting a windowing iWindow pointer. However, this one requires a Windows window. How can we get a Windows window? It's not very complicated. We just need to get it. So auto pointer Windows. Window is a dynamic cast to a Windows window pointer from my window, like that. Then we can take the Windows window in here, but without a pointer, and then this should be good. Right, yeah. That's good. Now I do just want to quickly check this Windows window, if it is correct. And then we can return true here, or return false if we get anything wrong. Now this creates us our new object, and now we should be able to use it and manage it. No, not manage it because it's auto-managed, but use it. So let's test this out. Let's go to our minimal app and let's try to retrieve a handle to that. Let's do in PDK, H object handle of a PDK, hardware section layer RI, I display surface, display, and now the only thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this is done after the display. So do I just initialize the DXJ instance? That's okay. I can do this here, and I basically want to put this down there, and then I can like say GPU I, and gonna create a display surface for my window 1. Window 1? What are you? You are a pointer? You are a pointer, okay. So to that one, and then we want to have this to the display. And this should, in theory, create us a swap chain, as everything is correctly programmed. Let's see. Top level exception occurred. That is not good. Top level exception means bad things happened. And it's even nicer that we are not getting a message for the top level exception. Alright, so let's see what happened. Okay, so let's go down there. Oh, come on. Why am I not allowed to? Oh, okay. So there's something we have broken something completely. That's okay. Alright, so where can I put a breakpoint? Here, 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 here. Yeah, we're just gonna flood it with breakpoints and see at least one should be persisting. Yeah, right. It should still be good. Now I can do the breakpoint here. Interesting. Alright, so let's see what's going on here. I still don't remember it. Step over, so I need step into. So get me the pointer. Get me the pointer. Okay, so I can now create a display surface. So okay, give me that address. That's okay. And go into that function. Okay, so Windows window. Okay, this has been created. So now we go into create new. So okay, now we're getting the allocator first. That's okay. So now we should get the queue. Oh, getting the allocator again. Okay, yeah, because we're calling it twice. It's okay. Reference wrapper. Yeah, do what you need to do. I should try to use the step out. What was step out again? Step into, step out was 5th F11. Okay. Now we should probably get into that get from my com pointer. Should get this again, and now we should be in the new object. Should allocate memory. Okay, we should not need to go that deep, which is good. Now we are going into the constructor. What are you doing here? Constructor. There's the constructor. Now let's see what's going on. Step into, no, step over that initialization. So allocator. Okay, now we should have a factory. That's good. Now we are describing everything. Yeah, get width, get height, it's okay. Now, after description is done, let's see. It must be that one, actually. Must be that one, but I want to see what it does. So, pointer, yeah, that's correct. We got a pointer. Where did we get a pointer? Yeah, there we get a pointer. Alright, so now we get the address off. That's okay. Okay, now converting this to the HWND. Now we should be... Yeah, now we are in an exception. Okay, so what is the exception doing? Okay, so... we can go deeper, I think. Okay, it's initializing something that I don't really care. Alright, so what is that exception looking like? So we don't have any message. That's always good. Oh no, the message is not built. This is okay that we don't have anything. I care about the... I care about the get exception message. So I care about... What? What is inside of that message? Interesting. Of course, it's an unknown exception. However, I have not set it my message equal to the exception string. I could just, this is something that I always forget that it works. Now this is reporting the error. That's now the message box. Now I at least get my unknown exception. That is good. However, why is the exception unknown? Because we have thrown probably the wrong type. We have thrown a... Of course I mute one phone, but the other one still rings on stream. Amazing. Last time the other phone rang and the other one was not here, so I muted the one, but I forgot that one is still there. Okay. This virtual function has not done its job. It has not done its job because the swap chain was not created correctly. Why has the swap chain not been constructed correctly? That's a big question. Which is probably not a big deal. However, this macro has not done its job. It's through an exception, a PDK exception. If the expression failed, it's through that exception, which expanded to PDK exception. It had the file name in here, and it also has all the data in here. So why did the PDK exception not did its job? That's not good. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably an idea to do this as well. However, it should work. But I probably made some mistake. I mean, it has done that. I've seen that it has done that. Good try. I don't want to have too much. I think is there a cross-platform debug break? I know, but in theory this should not be a issue here. Can't just spam breakpoints in here. Yeah, of course it now tries to recompile everything. So somehow the data in here is not valid. Or is it because no, it has not been initialized, it's okay. But now it should be valid. Function, the XGI displays a thing. Is this a constructor? File name is good. Fail to create swap chain. And the line is also good. So now the question is, why are we not calling the virtual? Because maybe, this could be, is it a thing? Is the vtable not initialized? Yeah. ASM int else. Could try this if this doesn't work, but this is not something. Yeah, it might be helpful for the future. However, what I do is that there's something wrong with the vtable. Probably. Why is it not a... No, it is a PDK base exception. But why do I not find a vtable for my a virtual... This is std exception. There should be a vtable. Interesting. If I would make this pure virtual for a while. I mean, I'm probably never gonna have a base exception anyways. Should not rely on a... Probably because we don't have a C++ source file and has not created the... Yeah, it somehow did not... Yeah, probably because I don't have a source file, so we really did not created a... But this shouldn't be an issue here. I do even have a source file. No, the base exception as well, yeah. But what are you now yelling at? Unresolved external symbol, virtual class, basic string, get exception message cons, get exception message base exception, reference and function, base exception. If I would at the implementation. This is probably going to build because it should be the same that we had previously. Is that gonna help me? I kinda like miss my vtable. I mean, I have the one. What's the compiler doing? I should not do anything that... Can I maybe... Come on. Copy the address, which I'm not allowed to do on this. I could try to find the correct address if it's in there, because... PTK exception? But this is the right one, or is it? PTK exception, get exception message. PTK exception, get an exception message. But I would love to see it in a vtable. Was I in a base exception? Like if I hover over them, they are correctly linked. No, why it's not visualizing that correctly. What would happen if I try to parse? I can try to see this is a PDK base exception. So I could say like base exception. Base exception. Cast this to a PDK base exception pointer from this. Still can see the V table. Why can I not see the V table? Interesting. Can I try to get the address of that function? If I do it like that, like this, and then this, and then I try to access, is it down with the pointer symbol or dot? Let's try this out. The message first. Yeah, with the message it works. So now if I would try to find this with the name of that function here, can I even maybe call it? I still get unknown exception back as a string. If I just do the function, a pointer to a bound function may... Yeah, that's okay, but I cannot display the pointer. Can I cast this to a pointer maybe? Let's just call it to a void pointer. No, I cannot cast this to a void pointer again. Like, this tool is really powerful, but it's not doing what I want. But what I can do is, like, I can call the function, but it's giving me the wrong result. I still have the void pointer in here, but... Why is it getting is not really calling through? I mean, like, the types, they are okay. However, we cannot call through. So what happened? Has it something to do with the destructor? Because, I should implement this by default. Because the exception is probably already defining a virtual destructor? Or not? But if I add one on top, it should not screw up other virtual stuff. Theory. The expression has side effects and will not be evaluated. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, like, should it actually show us the V-table here? We could try to maybe go up to something like that, which is our GPU interface, which is just having the... So this is also not showing us that here, so... Why is it not showing me the complete one? Okay, so it doesn't work like that. Maybe because I tried to optimize this away for some odd reason. Am I throwing the right exception? Yeah. Can I maybe peek in here and see if I reached it? But I probably not, because... What are you gonna say? If I have a breakpoint in here. It's still in code. So it has not been deleted. And now I again jumped over it. But it still gave up the... I should have braked if we are always going in here. That's a problem. And it's also just recognizing this as a PDK base exception. The const shouldn't screw us up. I never like really debugged these exceptions, I just threw them in actually. I mean, it's not const correct, but it should still work. Yeah, that's always a dickhead. Strange errors. I pressed F11 in this streaming thing. Would be very nice if I would have the comment end stream on F11. Nah. And again, still in the wrong function. It's just gonna give us the wrong message. Or is it has something to do that the V table is not generated at that point? Could that be? That the V table is not existing correctly before the constructor has executed? We could test this. I could go in here when I try to get the message and now evaluate this. Now it's a proper PDK exception. I mean, the V pointer I still have no access to that, but I'm fine with that if it is detecting anything else. But now, like, at least the hierarchy is matching. So maybe... Is it not... why should this not be initialized before the constructor is finished? We can try this out, actually. Yeah, this is now a different issue. Yeah. Yeah, it could be. Because we are calling it in the base exception and it does that. But we could maybe try in the base exception. What I could try here is instead of calling the base exception directly, I could maybe try to call my... nah, this is also not a good idea. I'm probably gonna try to move. I don't know, is it okay, but because... Yeah, because it's not qualified, because it now needs to const. So, but it's okay. But now I cannot like really assign, that's a problem. The message, but I could flag the message as, damn, how was it called? Never used it really. Ah, that keyword. To remove const checks from that variable, because I need a copy of that to store it, or it's not going to be valid as a const pointer as the function returns. That's a problem that I try to overcome with that, but the way how I implemented that. But it was not volatile, or was it? That's the wrong code. Yeah, it was not volatile. So if I could do something like mutable, yeah, exactly. Mutable was the thing that I was looking for. Right, thank you. Mutable. If message empty, please generate me, and that's how we can do it. And then we really don't care about the constructor here at all. gonna flag it as default. So we might need it. So I'll just make this const again. No, I'm a bit confident that it might work. Yeah, that was the issue. And now we are getting the operation has completed successfully as an H result. That's always good. There is still an error in here. I have a new line before. Is it really a new line? Come on. Quickly see. What I really like here is that the operation has completed successfully is what Windows says. However, like the XGI errors are always a bit not very conformant to H results. However, it's now saying everything that I wanted to say. So exception occurred, failed to create swap chain, DXGI display surface, line 35, that's all good. And now I just need to quickly check. It's using a bit many new lines. I don't like it. Base exception.cpp. I'm always lazy. But it's not showing me control characters, that's a pity. Alright, so... No, I cannot. Okay, this is wrapped automatically. However, what the operating system or Win API likes to do is it likes to put something around their text. But ignore inserts should have prevented that. I want to quickly see if that was formatted correctly because I don't like how it looked, but this might be also... Yeah, it's still having that RN at the back of it. I could just hard-code it and remove the last two characters, but I think I had a way to remove them. I mean, I could just check the last two for RN and remove them. Or was there another way for the string stream to ignore control characters? I think this ignore was doing something I like. Was there no way to tell it? String stream ignore control characters. I mean, I could write my own stream that does it. That's good, but wasn't there a way to... You said ignore, right? It's delimiter, stream size. STTC in ignore until space. No, that's not how I want to do it. Initial R first last. So how they did this. John Smith was outputted as... I don't know, is the in ignored? The in... Ignore until space. So they retrieved something. Okay, so they basically ignored the space here, or what? Interesting. Ah, right, so they read it just a single character and then ignored. No, that's not how I want to do it. Now I see what's going on. This is not a string, this is a char. Great, that's definitely not how I want to do it. It stops extracting. Can I not just ignore single characters? Okay, then we need to do it differently. So, the age local. Is it even modifiable? I could use getLine. Or putLine? No, was there something? PutLine? I mean, getLine is from a stream. I could try to put it in a stream and then get it from the stream. Does it work if I use a string stream, put something in and then get something from it? If I would try to do something like a cd string line, could I line that? Let's see. Probably not gonna work, but we're gonna try it out. Because getLine should remove this rn, right? If it does what it should do. It still has the r. Oh, thank you, Microsoft. But the r might not even screw us up. Has it been removed from the stream? No, it has not. So to make this very quick and dirty, we would clear it and then give it the line, right? But carriage return, is it gonna screw us up? It might be. Let's see if it screws us up. It's gonna be totally hacky. Why is getLine not? Oh, you didn't even saw the code. That is unfortunate. And still. I think I don't care. For now, I need to find a way around this. I need to go through all of the code that I've ever written. I have a way, and I have already done that at some point. I have removed that. Maybe a quick search for format message is helping us, but I don't think so. Or there might be some more flag. Like... maybe that one. But definition text? With mask. Yeah, that was the thing. Ha! Maybe you should search before you do it. Yeah, this now kinda looks good. Made an error code. Yeah. Always error. Maybe we're gonna do it differently. Maybe we're gonna do an std end line here. Haha, now I'm doing it manually, but it's okay. So we had OS error. Let's code. Showbase is not doing it. Showbase is not doing what it should. But I think this might be done with Showbase true. Or Showbase 1. How was Showbase used? iOS base. I didn't set it a fill as well. Or set fill? Yeah. This should at least give us hexadecimal. No, no 0x even through. I said show me the base. Bad, bad, bad. However, do we get an output from the debug layer? No, because it's probably not enabled. No, it should be enabled. I need to find why this fails. But it probably has something to do with the irregular termination of exceptions. I probably also want to stripe the everything until source from the file. Maybe I should do this very quickly so that we have clean exceptions at least finished. So file name is a const pointer, so we need to stripe this. Or we could just do this in a constructor. So we could make this an std string to store it. And then we're gonna say, come on, make this source file, please. Instead of assign, okay, we could assign this and then work with it. So we can say file name, find, what? Ah, of course, because I didn't have the my underscores here. Oh, maybe I should use refactoring. Shift Alt R. I need to remember these things. It's quicker if you know these. Yeah, completely refactored it not. Thank you. But it does. I don't. Because no, I don't know why I didn't do this at all of them. So find first off, and the first off that we want to find is a slash source or just source. How did we have the namings? I think let's just search for source here. Auto source position, and if source position not equal to std string endpause, then we can substring, and we're basically gonna say that file name is equal to file name substring, and we're gonna have an offset of source pos plus, let's say, auto delimiter source, then we can use the delimiter here. Source plus size of, no, string length plus 1 maybe. I think this should be good. Let's see. Okay, this did not work. Why didn't this work? Let's see. What? How can this be 4? Interesting. Why 4? Let's retry this. That is really odd. Like character 4 Or is that file name not? No, it's the same thing here. 4. Like 4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4 would be like the D from dev. I mean, Zeus is actually not a good idea. I would rather like search for PDK. I mean, like, I should use STD file system for that. That would be a bit better because of the auto slash, which would work on each system. That's really, really odd. Find first off. Is that function doing something else if we give it the string pointer? No, I want the official reference, please. Execution. So, how are they using it? It's not in string. I'm not at the string version. Const char pointer s. So this is version number 2. To one of the characters in the range. Haha, thank you. Why is there the performance overlay now? Oh, because of my control R. Haha. Okay, so this is not how we want to do. So how do I find? Just find? So the normal find. So that find should work according to internet. Let's see. Yeah, that looks better. This does what it should do. Now this looks a bit cleaner, the path. Wow, too many time for nothing. Actually, I could try to fix that error that comes after the exception. It would be kind of reasonable. Alright, what are you doing? This is a destructor. This is a destructor called because of what? Because this auto load encountered an exception because the... Yeah, good, okay. So we are destructing our layered app. Why are we destructing a layered app? That's not... doesn't seem right. Because... this should be the minimal app that gets destroyed. So that one is the minimal app. It's not, or maybe the minimal app does not have a destructor, so this would be okay in this case. Can we actually see that this is a minimal app? Yeah, it's a minimal app, so everything is good. Which destroys the layer container, which calls the clear method, and the clear method has an issue with what? Exception thrown, access violating, executing location. So okay, I think I do kind of know what's happening. So the layer is detached, but it is already invalid. So we have some Yeah, I see what's going on. The layer container is clearing something. Try to call on detach on a layer that is already freed. Right, is that the thing that happens? The address seems kind of bad. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to call on detach on that layer, which is not, or just garbage, and I think one of this, yeah, you're trying to call this function pointer, which is invalid. So the layer does no longer exist, but the pointer is still there. So the big question is, what is that layer? Do we have informations about them? Do we have one about the next layer? Window factory layer is the next one. So the current one is probably the... Okay, we are in the apps destructor. The layer apps destructor, which is a default destructor. Which means that it already did this like... Okay. This is not, should not be a default destructor, or might this? Is that a problem? Because the first one should be the stack prop? No, is it a stack prop? We don't know. We need to actually catch this before we destructing it. Let's see. So, how does the layer stack look like? Okay, already gone. That's not good. Now maybe valid, because it has not initialized that already. Yeah, now this looks better. However, we do not have layers in there. So this should not be an issue, actually. Wait, is this the... This is actually Microsoft code that I'm seeing here. Huh, interesting. Interesting thing that they are allowing me to see this. Huh. Now we exited correctly? Wait. Now we have no longer exited correctly. Strange. Yeah, this is invalid data here. Okay, now I'm here. So somehow the layer container gets destroyed before we get into the destructor. Why does it do that? It is actually living there. This has no reason to do it. I can it's better not to be able to ignore that. But this does not occur if I have no exception. This is something that I find really interesting, because it needs to have something to do with the exception. So if I would comment this out, this is not failing. Could take a look at this. It's still looking bad. Which means that it should also fail now. Interesting. Why are you now suddenly bringing behavior that you haven't brought before? Interesting. Never had this before. I didn't change anything there, actually. Or did I? Oh, I didn't change anything there. But still it fails now. Okay, so I need to really walk through the whole destruction code. Interesting. Really, really interesting. So, layout app. You only have a virtual constructor. So, I care about my minimal app.cpp and I care about everything which starts from there. Yeah, I know. So, let's see. So, the XGI instance shuts down. That's okay. Now, the application knows that it needs to terminate and should return the code of the stack probe, which is gonna go out of the save autoload, which is gonna return, which is gonna go out of the return. What? Why are you if I say step into? What did I say step into? Said step into. Okay, so step into does not step into the destructors. That's amazing. Good to know. Why could this already been invalidated? This is like all living on the stack. Gonna do the mastermind's problem solving abilities. Closing Visual Studio and doing a rebuild, lol. Even though this shouldn't do anything. Because it's like my code that fails. Visual Studio is not recompiling it, but just to be 100% sure. Since I still have the luxury to rebuild everything without waiting ages, I'm gonna do it. So no effect. Was really thinking that I had no effect because like, yeah. So what is going on? I would love to step through the full unloading steps that we have. Do I have in my minimal app? Don't even have it open, right? Minimal app. Where are you? There you are. Don't think that I have a destructor here, no? I don't have one. So we are really at the layout app. Directly, if I go into the layout app, my root layer is invalid. Why is my root layer invalid? Stack probe as well. Like the whole thing is invalid, but it's trying to call the destructor, or what is it doing? Maybe let's do one step in. No, it's directly... I'm not even allowed to step into that code. What the hell? Because yeah, there might no resource be attached to it, like... This is generated. Right, because this is like the breakpoint that we had. This is external, but I don't know why it didn't go into that then. But this is still invalid. The question is, why is it invalid? I mean, like, yeah, it's okay. Like, T instance and T instance is the thing that is gonna be now destroyed because of return. It's okay to destroy that. Why it did not work? What physics and collision do you mean? For my math library or? Or it might be quite a long time ago that I not remember it. I'm not that far yet. I'm still on all that on the rendering basics here on this engine, and on weird bugs that just occur randomly without changing something or changing anything here. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna use some collision detection and resolving, but not yet. This is gonna take a bit of time until we get to that point. I am gonna probably use NVIDIA physics for 3D. And 2D, I don't know. 2D is a nice task to implement self, but I know. Well, depends on. Maybe also use a library, but maybe not. But it's gonna probably be actually quite not that, maybe not even that far away. If that bug is not gonna keep me occupied for like ages. Back in the days when they had physics in there, I was not even like using Unreal. I was using physics in Unity, but never really in Unreal. But I have did a few experience with the API itself, so writing just code with physics, and it's actually quite a nice API. It's really nice to use. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna add a fucking implementation to that, to be at least able to catch something there. We don't have any code attached there. Stack probe, autoload, there we go. And I why is that memory uninitialized? I don't get the point. I mean, it's living here. Why should it be uninitialized? When did you hear? What was the last thing you heard? Okay, so no, in Unreal I never used physics. Back in the day when it was like in there, I just played around with Unity. When I actually switched to Unreal, or like properly switched to Unreal, was actually not even that long ago. It was previously more like the Unity guy. Main reason that like brought me back to Unreal was like C++. I could use C++ in Unreal. And yeah, so basically in Unreal I never used it, but I used the API itself. So in a non-Unreal context, just using the API to test a few things, not even big things, just to bit of play around with it. And physics itself is quite a nice library. I really like it, but on Unreal I never really used it that much. I think maybe, is it still available as a plugin? I think you can still like patch it in. NVIDIA Physics UE5. That's probably a plugin. Yeah, GameWorks Physics. I'm not quite sure. I think there is a way to get it in, but I'm not sure of that. I'm not that much into Unreal currently. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like Unreal is a really big project, and getting things in is always a bit. Yeah, they scripted. Yeah, with inlines, it's like the idea, the main thing what they kind of like thought. Yeah, like we're gonna do it. The thing is, like Epic is moving more and more to. It's like our sandbox. Everything is controlled by us. We want to have as much things as possible under our controls. We're gonna buy all the anti-cheat things. We're gonna buy all the compression things. We're gonna buy everything that we can do ourselves, basically, and have everything under our control. Like Unreal is moving more and more like C++, and Unreal is not C++ on like C++, right? With fewer objects and stuff like that. I mean, the language is C++, but it's more like Unreal C++, which is why like products like IntelliSense have like their very, very own implementation of everything, of the structure of the IntelliSense stuff and of the auto completion, because it's like more like, yeah, we took C++, but we modified it to our needs. Why does my application only crashes occasionally? There's no multi-threaded stuff going on here. There is... Now it... Why? Detach it, yeah. Yeah, like, it's always the problem. Like, Unreal, it at some point falls apart. That's a thing that I personally experienced. If you're doing something that's more advanced than what they planned that you're gonna use, it's gonna fall apart, and you need some plugins, libraries, other things to integrate, or do some shortcuts that are gonna crash your game and occasionally and stuff like that. So I know. Not really anymore a big fan with at least C++ and Unreal. If you're just doing blueprints, it's probably fine, but I like to have my memory raw. And that's what Unreal really tries to prevent me to. At least if I want to integrate it with blueprints. I know. Netcode, yeah. No, it's always a thing. Yeah, like Rust, I have actually never really done many things in Rust. I have not done many things in Rust actually. I kind of like saw the language and the syntax, and it really did not kind of appeal that much to me, so I never really started in it. And because all the libraries that are like out there commonly used for all the graphic stuff, they are all natively compatible with C++, so it's more like every engine, or like the big ones, all of them are written in C++. No. Yeah, less human. At least I'm currently trying, if there would not be some stupid issues that are stepping on my feet. But the idea is to get one when it's finished. If you could ever talk about finished, the product of a game engine, probably not. But yeah, the way is the journey. Yeah, I mean there are bindings, but for example, if I'm gonna plan for using AngelScript in the engine, and maybe also potentially other libraries, and I know if really all of them have bindings, and I kind of like use C++ and really don't see the point to really have a new language, because like C++ does allow you to do everything how you like it, even if it gives you sometimes errors like that. But like this error is even not something, that bug is like the most odd thing that I have ever encountered in my life in C++. Asterisk, probably there was already something that I already forgot until today, but like this has nothing to do with dynamic memory here, right? Like the whole class, the whole sys seems to be invalid currently. Not yet, because now I'm walking through it, but when the error occurs, the object itself, it's living on the stack and it's invalid, and it's calling the destructor, and it never had called it before. So it's really odd, like what happened, and I didn't change anything on that subsystem. It's like in a separate static library that has not been changed. This should not have happened, this issue here. I'm just gonna see if I might be there and call this function multiple times. Maybe let's do a breakpoint here and let's continue on. No, at some point this falls apart, but why does it fall apart? Now this fall apart might be... Is this valid? Or is it just... is it a bug? I don't know what's going on here. This is okay. So this is now maybe even allowed to fail, because this could be me doing something bad. Or is it not? I'm gonna try this out again one more time and be a bit more cautious what I'm doing. So when I go in here, now I'm on destructing. I'm in here. So first layer removed. Of course now the current has been overwritten. Maybe, what is the current one? The current layer, it is called... Maybe I need to get my watch list back again. The current layer get name. Oh, that's always good if the name is already empty. Like there. Interesting, this layer might not be named. A window layer. Might really not be named. Seems like I haven't named that one. But it's a window layer, so this is actually good. This is a good layer. Okay, next one. So this might be another window. Okay, this is a window factory layer. So it doesn't have a name. Interesting. Or the name might be... of course, it should have a name. I'm newly in that loop. So which one do we have now? Layer, the stack probe. That's okay. The stack probe gets removed. Now the next one is null. We're gonna go over it and done. And we are finished. Like, this is normal termination. How you would think it should work. See if we can catch the arrow while stepping through that. Come on, go me to that one. So now, what is now? What do we have here now? The now current is window layer. Window layer. Now this is probably the window factory layer. Yeah, that's correct. So now I would expect the UEA layer. The stack probe layer. Yeah, good. Now I would expect null. Good. Go out of that. And finished without issues. So it works. Probably as soon as I'm removing the breakpoints. That's probably like, where was that window? Remove all. I know. There was probably a keyboard command for that, but probably still gonna have someone here. So now, yeah, go in and now fail. Like, slowly it works, but fast? Nah. Not gonna work fast. And if something works slow, but not fast, if something works with breakpoints, but it does not work without breakpoints, in most of the time, multi-threaded issue. If you have multiple threads and race condition, and now the other thread, because I'm debugging one maybe, or the other one pauses, or weird stuff like that happens, is most of the time issue related to threading. But I don't use threads here. There's no thread in there currently. So I'm now gonna do a full emergency stop on that by basically deleting my whole build folder. And now I can go on and do everything from fresh. Maybe something that you don't even clean with clean or rebuild. Because I don't see really Why are you failing if there is could also try a release build, what a release build is gonna do. It's still gonna fail. But this looks now a bit more reasonable because it's a null pointer, however that current layer is still some invalid shit. Like there are threads, but these are not my threads. What I could do to completely prevent it . Of course. Call clear before I'm gonna go into code, but I have no access to that. I could try, but I could try to debug it. Stop. So what I could do is I could say layer stack, which should be a member, right? Root layer container. So I could say layer stack root layer container clear. So yeah, that's a normal member. The pointer. Layer stack not a pointer? Member, normal member. Heh. Even if I call it manually, it's because it's already looking bad. Right. Yeah, you need to wait until I'm here, okay. That makes sense. Not able to do it again? Okay, now I'm able to do it again. Now it looks good. If I do it here, it works. Now I'm again in here. Now I can actually remove that one because I already know that that one is not working. Is it always looking good if I'm here? Looks kind of like that. So if I would rerun this, boom. No, it's already failing. So the issue is occasionally occurring in the destructor of the layered app. Like the most simple thing, which would probably see if this is a not me related issue, would be to go to autoload. What was this? Control Shift O. I need to learn the short keys. Shift. So autoload.h. No, is it I autoloadable? I autoloadable. Yeah, that one. So this was the failing one, right? If I could do this like that, say instance equals new t. And then I say instance autoload and say something like auto result equals. Then delete instance return result. If this now fixes the issue, then it's really odd, but it's probably not gonna fix it. Ah, you didn't see the code, that's bad. I basically made it a pointer. Made the instance a pointer. Yeah, of course not. Would be really, really bad if that would solve it. Like, I'm always like searching the issue my side because I would be rather debug hours for finding out that I was a total idiot and forgot something. This is like nearly an undebuggable error. Maybe I should remove one window that I do not always need to close two, but yeah. This all looks valid, but it is not. Why? Because I haven't watched it correctly. Yeah, that makes sense. What is going on? It's... Okay, so this bug is now probably gonna revolve to me forgetting one virtual. That's the only thing that I can still think of. This is the app one. So the iAutoLoadable. Starting from an iAutoLoadable. So in iAutoLoadable I have a virtual destructor. Right? I have that one here. Now, over the iAutoLoadable there is the layer app. Which has a virtual destructor. Is it okay to have it there or not have it there? That's a big question. What would happen if I remove it? Do we need to manually call through all the virtuals? No, normally I shouldn't. Am I kind of like doing something wrong? No. If I would do a bad override here, probably not execute this at all. What I really don't like is that there is an external code frame in between. I have no idea what's happening between there. Why is there an external code frame? Or it might be, because this might be... Okay. No way around it. Boom. Give me my disassembly. I need to get... Okay, so... I'm actually there. Okay, so minimal.cpp. Give me a breakpoint here. Alright, so... Let's see what we get. What the exact steps are that are reproducing these errors. So we are doing some shit. We are calling the destructor of the window factory layer, which is probably okay. Or is it okay? No, it's not okay. Is that the big issue? This might be the issue. Because we're destructing the window factory layer before we are destructing the app. The app needs to be destructed itself first. If that fixes it, you can call me the virtual noob for ages. Really, that's the big issue. Because if we are deleting the layer before it has been fully removed, we're gonna have bad things. But we can actually fix that without having that in here. We just need to make sure that the layer stack is cleared and removed before we start and destruct that one. So all that virtual madness for nothing. Okay, maybe I should, since this error was something that come and goes. Maybe I should try it a few times until we are really sure that this is the issue. But I'm kind of confident now that I saw the disassembly that this is the bug. But it's interesting that it hasn't arisen before. Maybe I always stopped it with that button. It could be. One time again, if it now works, then this is the error, and you can call me Virtual Noob. Yeah. So my new name is now Virtual Noob. So layered app. So what is important now? First of all, we don't need all these destructors now. Still on here. Minimal app, minimal app, minimal app. No, layered app. Layered app.h. Default. And you're gonna get from me the virtual keyword just to indicate that you are virtual. Okay. So now what the layered app needs to do, it needs to call a clear function on the layer stack before the layer stack kills itself. How can we do this? Do we call clear recursively? We call onDetach, and onDetach should delete all reference chains. We might need to manually write a clear function. So let me first take a look at the layer container. The layer container does have a clear function. Yeah, do you have a clear function? Is a clear function actually public? Seems like it. But where is it? I can't see it. You are calling clear. Where is clear? What are you? You're a basic area. It's deleting the object, and if we are deleting an object, it's removed. So if this is then calling clear, yeah, that's okay, we can call this. That is completely okay. So the only thing that I now need is a clear function on the layer stack, which is not existing. We have the remove layer. We have the destructor. No, we don't have a destructor. The destructor is gonna destruct that one, which is calling clear, which is okay. So we can write an inline void clear, which is gonna call the clear function on the root thing. So now that we have that one in here, we can go back to our minimal app, no, layered app, and down here in our on app destroy, we want to call layer stack clear, so that the layer stack is cleared, and now this should solve the bug as well. I should be more confident going into disassemblies, because disassemblies are nice and you see what's happening. It says it 2 more times and then I'm gonna end the stream. This took way too long time. But that's what you get when you're watching a stream, right? You're getting the raw experience. We didn't even solve the bug that we initially tried to solve, actually. Yeah, maybe we're gonna do it. Now that we have a bit of framework working and going on there, we might try to do something and check it. So, yeah. Let's see what we can do. First of all, coming in, that one that failed us. And should still fail us. Because that's not the bug that we solved. Okay, fail to create a swap chain. So now I would expect down in my output to get a message from the debugging layer telling me, hey, you have done that wrong. But it is not telling me that. That either means that my macro is an idiot, because it's a bool and I'm not checking against bools. Or that I'm an idiot and have not properly enabled the debugging layer, which is more certain. But we don't know. I mean, it all boils down to me, so really blaming myself there is the only thing to do. So what are you doing? Because I think that one is actually returning a bool. No, it's returning an H result. Okay, so that's not the bug. There was one function, one of these stereo functions that returned a bool. One sneaky function out of a few ones. Everything returns an H result, and if you're checking a bool and H result, bad things happen. Because false is then gonna be true. No, I think it's actually... yeah, true is then an error or something like that. I don't know. Or might not be an error, but a code that's not correctly. So, factory, why are you not yelling at me? Do we have... where do we enable debugging stuff? I don't think that we enable debug stuff, right? I think the hardware interface... the D3D12 debug. Where is D3D12 debug? We just have a debug device, but we don't have a D3D12 debug. The D3D12 debug would be either done by DXGI, but DXGI is probably just going to DXGI debug me in. So the D3D12 hardware interface needs to also care about debug. So we need to have some debugging here. So if def ProEdge GFX debug. And if we are graphic debugging, we want to say that com pointer to ID 3D12 debug 1. I like to use it. Yes, okay. So debug, something like that. And I'm gonna have a void in it here and a void shutdown that are initializing this class or this debug thing actually. Def ProEdge GFX debug. Wanna do stuff. Oh, no. Wanted to actually get this where it belongs. And do it like that. Then we have it here, and we can now initialize it. So debug or D3D12 get debug inf D3D12 get debug interface. No, there we are. IID PPV args of debug, and this is an H result probably. So do we have one here? No. So PDK check HR and throw. So we want to basically check this here. Basically say fail to retrieve D3D12 debug interface. And if we got it, we're gonna say mdebug enable debug layer. Is that a void? I think this was not. No, this was not. This is a void. This was not the magic boolean function. Alright, so mdebug release. Right, like that. Now we just need to call these two functions because they're never going to be called, and they are called by DXGI. This seems odd, but it does, or this might fail. Are they coupled? We do need some operating system hook that is gonna call them. So in mapping, we need to have a function that initializes the mappings, so the operating system stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it the same bad way that we have done it in our D3D12. Oh lol, I did do it here. Oh, that's sad. I thought that I haven't done it. But it's better if we have it properly. So, yeah. Yeah. Let's quickly do a including of stuff that we shouldn't include. Why is my init away? hardware interface. Ach, ist es ein RI? Oh. Oh. Yeah, nice. I'm gonna be a bad guy and just copy this over. I could say auto, huh? Implementation instance. Get implementation instance. Now this would work. But I think shutdown should be before that. This is something nobody really is gonna understand why the order of that is so important to be in that order as far as I think to get proper reporting of objects. No. Fail to create swap chain. Yeah, that's actually okay. But the operation, this is something that I personally really hate. Why does this throw when it says that the operation completed successfully, right? The operation, the last error was the operation completed successfully, but the H result was not okay. So this is actually... Why is my old bug? Oh, no, because okay. I see my old bug is hunting me down. Because now you always just need an explanation why you are getting screwed up. No. App core layer app. Oh, we have a new spammer in the chat. Hello and welcome to the spam. Welcome to the chat. Oh, the message is away. That's so sad. Here. That one, not good, because it's in safe. But you should be unsafe, right? I mean, we could try a safe cleanup here, but you should be like here. Just all of that. Like the issue that I have now, which I thought that I probably gonna get, is that the H result returned by DXGI is not the last thing that we executed before the exception. No, that doesn't make sense. It's not the... Oh, no, it makes sense. Oh, okay. I see. We need to implement a bit of... but I think we got the error message before I refactored the exception as well. Did we get them? I know. But, yeah. I know. It really boils down to what it does. However, I am not gonna continue on the stream. We now reached the limit for today. 18 o'clock here in Germany. Nearly a few minutes away, but I need to now prepare for dinner. The bug that catched us a long time, so yeah, we're gonna get back to that in future video stream. I'm gonna probably do a bit of changes to the exception code so that we really get the return value in the exception as the last error code, or additionally to the last error code from the operating system. So thank you for watching the stream today. Sadly a bit long time here on the error, but yeah. So thank you for watching and attending the stream. We're gonna see us in the next video or stream, C++ or game engine, whatever you like, or you may like both. So yeah, thank you and have a nice day. Bye.